What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth after day one of Patriots training camp down there in the heat on Gillette Stadium, back practice fields today for day one. Again, kind of a shorter 90-minute session, no pads, obviously, per league rules. Got about 2 periods of full team drills at the end of practice, 11 on 11. So that's where most of our attention is going to be today. And we'll just jump right into it because, Barth, they get into 11 on 11s after, the stretching and positional drills. In Drake May's first pass, there goes Stefon Diggs buzzing across his face after not seeing him in these team drills in the spring. He's cleared. He's not many limitations, as we talked about last night. Out there right away, starting first pass of the summer, Drake May to Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs, I thought, looked really good today, building off that strong spring. And they connected again later on. So just to see that connection right out of the gate like that, I thought that was really encouraging on day one here today.
Well, sorry if I missed it. Did you get the false start in there?
Oh, there was a false start.
So there was a false start.
There was a false start. And then we got the Drake May.
Drake May to Stefon Diggs. It was great to see. And it was great to see Diggs all day. My non-medical, just watching practice, how I've watched practices before and kind of knowing what guys do and don't do. I don't think Diggs is 100%. He's a hell of a lot closer than when he was in the spring. He was maybe 70, 75% in the spring. I would think, again, this is my unexpert guess, probably closer to 90 now in terms of like being full go. And that's in terms of availability, not in terms of like where he was compared to, ability last year in Houston, just availability. But he's out there. He was flying around. He was involved in team drills. He was still limited a little bit. They did this one individual kind of, it wasn't obviously not a tackling drill, but, offense, defense, squaring up sort of drill that he didn't take part in. I don't know if you can describe that better than me, Brian. But besides that, he looked very involved. I will say we didn't have that one receiver. Like, we're going to gush about him. We're going to be complimentary of a couple other receivers today. We will get to Kyle Williams, but it's not the day that like a receiver took over. Like if you go back to last year, even this spring, there was a day where Pop Douglas had 5-6 catches. Today wasn't like that. One, just because there were less reps, but also Drake May was spreading the ball around. So you had 8 completions to 6 different receivers. Nobody had more than 2 catches. That was Diggs and Kyle Williams. And what I love about that is it did seem at times, and look, there's nothing wrong with going to a security blanket when you need it. And there were times in the spring, it felt like he was high volume going to Hunter Henry and Pop Douglas. And again, you can do that at times, but for the Josh McDaniels offense to really work, all 5 skilled position players on the field at any given time have to be viable threats, right? They would, even on that rare occasion, kick James Devlin out wide and maybe throw him a slant or something, right? You have to keep the defense honest at all levels. So there is something, as many volume numbers as Edelman piled up, there would be games where Edelman would have 10 catches, but there would be 6 or 7 players with targets, right? And some guys might only have 1 or 2, but they were there. So I know this was a question about Diggs, and I kind of went roundabout, but it's all sort of related. Like, I liked what I saw from Diggs. I think the opportunities he had, he was really good. He didn't have a lot of opportunities, not by fault of his own. Although there were times he was open and, he just kind of got open away from the ball. But I really liked how Drake May spread the football out today, too. I think that's an important talking point.
Yeah, definitely a lot of guys getting involved, and there were, I just counted, I had 9 passes, I think, unless I missed one. So again,
I had him 8 of 9. So
8 of 9, yeah.
So Matt Dahl from Traxxas for the Sports. I've had him at
9 passes. So there wasn't the opportunity for someone to catch 5 or 6 passes in team drills. Again, they ran just 2 of those 11 on 11 periods, but spreading the ball around. Couple downfield, if we're going Drake, had a nice seam shot to Hunter Henry, couple to Diggs, 1 to Kyle Williams, which was a nice pass testing Christian Gonzalez too. So kind of quiet in the terms of reps, but it was a productive day for Drake, and spreading the ball around, like you said, was a good sign early. But back to the receivers, because Kyle Williams, again, only 2 catches, but had a really nice kind of contested grab against Christian Gonzalez along the boundary, and then had another one kind of in the flat. In the mix with that starting group, it was Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, and Pop Douglas were kind of the top 3, but Kyle Williams was right up in that mix, working in with the first team offense. So I thought that was really encouraging. And then, to have the catch against Christian Gonzalez, and Dre complimented after practice. So I thought that was, it was Diggs and Kyle Williams who kind of led that receiving room with 2 targets, 2 catches. But I thought, they were kind of the highlights of that room on day 1 of camp.
I will say Kendrick Bourne had a highlight catch. Let's not leave Kendrick Bourne out early in practice. True. It was from Josh Dobbs, but Dobbs kind of underthrew him, turned something that probably shouldn't have been a jump ball into a jump ball. And he went right up over Craig Woodson, ton of contact, took the ball away from him, held it to the ground. So he had a nice play. And Kayshon Boutte had made a nice play on that one. It was probably a sack, but Drake May kind of kept it going, and Boutte was able to sit down, find some room in the middle of the field in the intermediate part, and climb the ladder to make a catch.
Yep. Anything on Kyle Williams, his day?
Yeah, I mean, the rep against Gonzalez was impressive, especially since that's not his game. He's not a contested catch guy, but if you're going to be the X, which is where they had him running for most of the day, you're going to have to do some of that. He's not going to be Randy Moss, Julio Jones, but you got to have a baseline in that spot. So that was encouraging, maybe something he's worked on. And they gave him a lot of run. The last 2 years, obviously with Bill, and then even the Gerard Mayo year, there were times where maybe they were sheltering rookies. It's just one day. That's basically a disclaimer on this podcast, just one day. But
and not in pads either.
And not in pads. Well, this isn't even necessarily a pads, non-pads thing. It's just the rookies are out there. The rookie, we'll get to Jared Wilson, but Travion Henderson was involved. Kyle Williams was involved. At least the top 100 picks. I don't know how much I saw them on defense, but the top 100 picks, those guys were out there, and those guys were out there like with a chance to compete, not just for roster spots, obviously, which they're going to get, but for potentially like starting or heavy rotational jobs.
Yeah. Well, Craig Woodson just over the 100 pick mark. Like he was in the area on that Kendrick Bourne play, kind of got his hands on it, bounced up in the air, and then Bourne caught it. So they were all involved for a good portion of practice there. With Dobbs, just mentioned him there. I thought wasn't the best day for him. He had that kind of underthrow to Bourne. He missed Efton Chisholm high, a couple passes behind some guys. So that's the
interception of Baker too,
which miscommunication maybe, but that was like a floater kind of duck pass.
Yeah, it was great.
An interesting one. So that's something, you felt pretty confident with Joe Milton and Jacoby Brissett last year, like watching Josh Dobbs in that backup role this year will be interesting to monitor. And it wasn't a great first practice from him there with accuracy wise. So
you see the clips of Joe Milton in Dallas, by the way?
I did. I saw one of them where he's the one on like the left sideline down the field.
Where it's an insane throw. He throws it back across his body, fading away like 45 yards on a dot. Does he lead the receiver out of bounds? Yes. But like half the Cowboys fans are super fired up by it. And half the Cowboys fans like, what are you talking about? It's incomplete. Joe Milton experience. We know, we've been there. We know. Full Joe Milton experience underway in Dallas.
I kind of miss it. I won't lie. I miss it watching it out there. But anything else, quarterbacks, skill position players, before we get to the offensive line here? I think that was most of it. Again, not many reps to go off of. Just
they didn't run a lot of plays today. It wasn't that heavy 11-on-11 focus we saw last year, even in the spring. A little more work on fundamentals, which Vrabel kind of said was going to be the case here early on. I'm guessing that we'll get more 11-on-11 reps as the summer goes on, especially once the pads come on. But a little more of fundamentals day to day on day one, which makes sense.
Yep. All right, to the offensive line, just how it lined up, kind of as what we expected on day one. Will Campbell, left tackle; Cole Strange, left guard; Garrett Bradbury, center for the most part. We did get to see Jared Wilson work in there a little bit after he was limited in the spring, so that was exciting. Mike Onwenu then at right guard; Morgan Moses at right tackle. And Barth, you put the qualifier on our preview show last week. You weren't gonna have any main takeaways besides in the performance department, really, on the offensive line on these first, week of practices with no pads. after watching them today, there was a little bit of pressure, a couple would-be sacks maybe on Drake May. Are you sticking with your qualifier, or do you want to freak out a little bit about the offensive line today on day one?
No, we'll see when the pads come on. And it might look like that when the pads come on. I'm not acknowledging it won't. But there weren't pads on. I'm not putting a ton of stock into it. I will put stock into the usage because we got some interesting stuff today out of the usage. And I said that. The usage still counts. I just don't care about guys getting beat when they can't really block. It's, as Evan said today on Cash 22, you're basically just out there trying to set a pick like in basketball. That's as much as they can do right now. The usage stuff, though, like you said, Jared Wilson in the mix at center. That's a real battle, right? So Drake May got kind of 2 go-arounds in each 11 on 11 period. There were 2 of them. First go-around was Garrett Bradbury. Second go-around was Jared Wilson. That's a position battle. That's what that is. And I'm not going to evaluate how close they are, again, because no pads, and I'm sticking to my rule. But that thing's maybe more up in the air than a lot of people thought. And I've been saying it since the draft. I'm going to say it again. Jared Wilson could very well be this team starting center week 1. I don't think that would be a bad thing, necessarily. So I like that. I'm interested in that. There's no movement at left guard, starting left guard. That was basically all Cole Strange. I don't think he came out for any snaps with the ones, did he? Unless I'm missing one.
Not that
I didn't see him out for any. First day for everybody. Like, you got to get back in the rhythm of what you've been watching practice. So he seems pretty comfortable there. I wonder if we get more of a challenge at some point, right? Because at that spot with the guys he's competing with, it's mainly just physical. With Jared Wilson, there's a little more mental because it's center. So maybe that's why he's rotating now, and the left guard competition will truly start once the pads come on. Caden Wallace does seem to be in the mix there. Didn't get first team left guard reps, but he got a lot of left guard reps. He also doesn't seem like the favorite to be the backup right tackle because they subbed Morgan Moses out a couple times and put Demontre Jacobs in. So maybe Jacobs is the favorite there. I don't read too much into Moses sitting. I know some people thought he got benched because of the pressure. I think that's probably more just maintenance.
Yeah.
This guy's 34 years old coming off a knee procedure. You don't need to run him into the ground on a day like today. So I read that more that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I read that more that way. Which doesn't mean, it also doesn't mean there's no concern. Guy needs to be maintenance. That's not nothing. But maybe less of a battle at left guard than we thought. More of a battle at center than a lot of people thought. And Demontre Jacobs, probably the backup right tackle, and Caden Wallace is going to work at left guard. So for something we can't evaluate because it's not actual football, that's a lot of information.
And Yasir Durant was repping a lot at backup left tackle. So, that's a competition.
Yeah.
If it's, and he has experience at right tackle and guard. Yeah. So he could be that kind of super swing tackle, versatile lineman on your secondary unit there. But with the starters, I'm 100% with you with center. I've been kind of harping on that since they signed Bradbury and then drafted Jared Wilson. Like, with the struggles Bradbury had last year in Minnesota, they moved on from him prematurely. They cut him, one of the worst, or the worst actually, statistic pass blocking center in football last year. Then they draft Wilson, who is super high potential for a 21-year-old there in the 3rd round. Like, I would not be surprised if he just outduels him and makes them kind of give him that starting center job by week 1, especially at some point in the season. If, the sprain did kind of derail him a little from a mental standpoint, and they do go to the veteran there. So that's a competition I'm excited to watch. And then left guard, it was Cole Strange. Does seem like maybe Caden Wallace is the top competitor at left guard behind him, which is kind of interesting and exciting, because a lot of people thought, in his draft year, he would be best at guard, a big, powerful guy. So that shorter, kind of stockier frame too. So we'll see what happens with Caden Wallace at left guard there. But the one guy, Layden Robinson, for a guy who started, double-digit games last year, like, he was still on the 3rd unit, back at right guard today. So doesn't look great for Layden Robinson out there. But yeah, those backup linemen you talked about seem like the front runners for those spots right now. So
just a couple of things on that. Yasir Durant, backup left tackle. Darian Lowe still not participating. So there is that. Also, I don't think we mentioned it in the wide receiver part. I don't know if you want to get to it later. Jalen Polk not participating, which not on PUP and not participating, to me, is really not a great sign for him.
Not a great sign. Yeah. And that's a guy, he needs to be on the field right now if he wants to get on
Oh,
this
yeah.
roster. So not being out there, not a great sign for him. Yeah, you mentioned Lowe. Polk was the only absence like of those guys not on a list. Hooper was on PUP. He wasn't out there. Minkins wasn't out there. You know, some of those guys we rolled through last night on the NFI in PUP. Anyone still on
Yeah.
the list was not out there. So that is attendance wise. But anything else, and Matt Collins in that group as well. But anything else offensive side of the football there, or we can jump over to the defense very quickly.
I think that's really it.
All right. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. And do you guys know ball? Because the football season is right around the corner when we can put maybe Stefon Diggs and Kyle Williams into our Prize Picks lineup. But for now, we are rolling with summer baseball. Spice up the action on Prize Picks. Again, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less on player stats like hits, home runs, strikeouts, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today, and even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday each Tuesday, where projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. I've been still rolling with Roman Anthony. I know he's in a little bit of a slump right now, but he's going to break out of it. So we're still adding more than half a hit into our lineup. Pair that with anything else you like from the baseball world, or even go to women's basketball, other sports that are going on right now. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, back to training camp, to the defensive side of the football. Starting up front, because there was a lot of pressure, and I feel like we should almost put a qualifier this whole summer when we talk about the offensive line struggling. Patriots defensive line is pretty freaking good, and you saw that today. Christian Barmore, Milton Williams on the inside. You know, Milton Williams got right by Cole Strange on one rep, just blew that up. And then on the edge, you know, Keon White in the backfield a lot. Harold Landry, I thought looked really good and, you know, explosive off the ball, quick first step. Even Caleb on Chase on in the mix as well. So we talked a lot about those edge guys, that defensive line all offseason in the spring. But, you know, you saw him kind of take over today, even in a non-padded practice.
Yeah, and again, it's without the pads. The one thing I'll say, they added a lot of speed to this defense, and it shows up.
Yep.
And like on offense, it's still got to show up when the pads come on, and that'll be the question. But it's going to be an adjustment, I think, when a lot of people see it. We're so used to front seven defense being played a certain way in New England, and this is very different. And you kind of have to recalibrate when you watch it. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just different. So, but the speed and explosiveness they added up front is very real.
They attack. They get after you. They like it. So,
but it's not just they want to get after you. They can get after you.
They can too. Yeah, they have the talent to get after you as well. So, impressive first showing from that unit. That's going to be a strength of the team. You hope that's a strength of the team to kind of dominate some games up front there in the trenches. But back a level, Spillane's still the guy on that second level, but we had that full assortment of linebackers with Jelani Tavai out there healthy, Marte Mapu healthy, Christian Ellis, Jack Gibbons. Did you see anything from that kind of rotation? You know, we talked about that weak side linebacker next to Spillane a lot. Anything from that rotation on day one kind of stand out to you as maybe who has that inside track at that spot there?
Honestly, no. That my takeaway just still feels very, very open between those guys. And I don't know that we learned a ton in terms of what they're looking for from that spot today. Tavai still in the mix. Really good for him that he was able to get healthy and get cleared after that injury in OTAs to be back for day one, because he's going to probably need as much time as he can to make a roster push. That was my big takeaway, honestly, linebackers, just that he was out there. And so I think when he got hurt, especially after everything that happened last year, people were already writing him off. And Mike Vrabel talking about we're going to remove entitlement from our football team. A lot of people took that as a shot at him. But then instead, you know, he's back, he's out there, and he's going to be squarely in the mix.
Yeah. It was mostly, I would say, him and Christian Ellis, as you would probably expect. And then, you know, Gibbons and Mapu rotating in there occasionally. So we'll see with Tavai and Ellis. Hopefully we get clear pictures on those guys as we go along there. But anything in the secondary, we'll give DJ James his shout out. He got the lone interception, first interception of the summer, kind of that floater from Josh Dobbs we mentioned earlier. So DJ James on the board in the secondary. Anything else from that back unit? Jabril Peppers should have probably had an interception off Drake May that he dropped. But anything from that secondary that kind of stood out on day one here?
Just more availability stuff. Kyle Duggar out there, Jabril Peppers out there, Marcus Epps out there. Those guys look healthy. And Duggar was kind of the big one because I don't even think he did like stretching in the spring. He was sort of gone doing conditioning the whole time. So for him to go from that to participating today is an encouraging sign. Just again, that they had everybody out there. I know this sounds dumb. Usually you talk about in November, wow, they're really healthy for this point in the year. This is the first day of training camp, and we're pulling that one out. I understand sounds a little ridiculous, but I think last year they had like 10 guys on PUP to start camp. And even the last couple of years, I mean, Bill loved to use the PUP list. So they're in, key players are healthy right now. That pretty much every key player that we wondered about coming into this thing is healthy. Vidarian Lowe isn't going to be a starter. Austin Hooper, his issue didn't seem that serious in the spring, so that's maybe one. Mac Hollins is going to be a rotational receiver. And then Jalen Polk, right? Everybody else seems good to go. So we're not really waiting on pins and needles to see, is this guy going to be ready? That was going to be Diggs. Certainly looks like he's going to be ready. So
yeah, definitely. So Duggar, I thought he looked really good for, coming off the ankle surgery, like his cutting, his movement skills. I thought he looked good and ready to go. So that was encouraging there on the back end. You did mention Austin Hooper, and someone asked in the chat, switching back offense here, who was the second tight end and how did they do? It was mostly Jack Westover. I don't think he had any targets or catches though. So it was still, he got the opportunities, but it was still mostly quiet from kind of those reserve tight ends there.
Yeah, still, we're going to have to see when the pads come on. That's basically what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Do the pads come on? Do any of them show up as a blocker? If not, I think it might just be two tight ends and they'll elevate from the practice squad.
Yep. Someone else, how is Travion Henderson? Did you notice anything specific from him? Still looked fast. Still looked explosive.
Still looks fast. Yeah. When I don't think he caught any passes.
No, he had that nice one cut. I remember you were standing next to me and said,
"Oh, he did have a nice cut." Yeah. So there you go. He had one nice cut. Now that'll be when the pads come on. Running backs kind of go into that line of scrimmage thing.
Yep.
He didn't look bad. He didn't look bad. I'll give you that. He
was involved. Again, he was involved.
He was involved.
So
yeah.
That was encouraging. And another, didn't hear anything about Efton Chisholm. Seems like the hype train stalled. He was running consistently with the second unit. He got open once and Josh Dobbs missed him. So hopefully they can maybe find him the football a little bit more going forward there for Chisholm. But not
the same kind of day for him. I wouldn't say it stalled, but it was quiet today.
Yeah. So no field goals, sadly, to report. They teased us. They lined up. Me and Barth had to run over to the hill and get ready. And then they didn't even snap. They didn't even kick. They were just working on, the protection unit. So hopefully no blocked field goals this year.
They spent a good amount of time on that. So there better not be blocked field goals.
It was definitely. I was telling you, I don't think I've ever remembered them working the field goal block without actually kicking before. So they repped that pretty extensively, but they didn't actually kick. So no numbers on Borgalis or Parker Romo today, unfortunately. So hopefully going forward there. But before we get to the new thing we wanted to do to end all of our shows, any last thoughts, notes, anything we missed there, offense, defense, to wrap up today?
Mike Reese with an update. The Patriots pet adoption event was very successful. 40 of 41 available dogs found a new home. I don't know what happened with the 41st dog, but
that
was kind of a fun thing today.
That was very fun, except for that one dog. Apparently, that is very unfortunate. Someone should.
But you know what? Somebody's going to read that and call them and
adopt that dog. 100%. Did you see Borgalis actually went home with the dog? Did you see that clip?
Yes, I did see that clip on social media. Yeah.
So he's got a new puppy. Hopefully,
I don't know, it's his girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever. She'll probably go back for the 41st one based on
probably.
She seemed very excited in that clip.
this one was their fourth puppy or
That's
fourth
what I'm
dog
saying.
already,
Yeah.
so they can go back and get a fifth one. So that was fun to have the puppies all over the place. Stefon Diggs, if sure everyone saw that video. If you didn't, go on socials and see him. He almost lost his dog to start practice there. So good start, but good stuff.
He looks good though. He looked good chasing after it.
Yeah, that was his first test, his first kind of scramble drill there, and he looked good, cutting around and chasing the dog. So fun stuff on day one of training camp there. But Barth, let's wrap up with our plugger of the day. We're doing this every training camp. People are probably like, what the hell is that? So why don't you tell them what we're doing here on every show?
I shout out or where I used to go to camp when I was a kid. At the end of the day, like I think they did a lot of camps, like they give out awards to the campers depending on what activities you did that day. But every day there was a plugger of the day, which went to it was like camper of the day. It was called plugger of the day. It was never explained to any of us why it was called that, despite the fact that we asked. And me and my friends still joke about it every year. They're like, hey, for training camp, because camp, you should plugger of the day. But they always remind me like 3 or 4 days into camp when it's too late. And this year they got on me about it early. So
here you
plugger
go.
of the day for camp, because the camp thing, that's the joke. My plugger of the day is Kyle Williams. That was a really good catch up against Christian Gonzalez. So he gets my plugger of the day today.
All right. We'll go different. So I'll give it to Harold Landry today. I just thought he looked really good, really explosive off the edge there. I don't think he would have tallied any of those would-be sacks, but he was in the backfield a lot and gave the tackles a lot of issues today. So my first inaugural plugger of the day will be Harold Landry and Kyle Williams for you. We need graphics made. Like
talk to Ahmed about that.
Plugger of the day, Kyle Williams and Harold Landry.
Also, you used to get like a little printed out piece of paper. It looked like a certificate. I'll have to see if I still have one. Oh man, like 20 years later.
Hang it up in the background plugger.
Well, so Ahmed can make one so he knows what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So all right. That's how we'll wrap up training camp shows from here on out with our plugger of the day. But that's it for day one. We'll ask everyone, please like and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass so you don't miss any Patriots content throughout the rest of training camp here. You can also subscribe wherever else you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. And also, if you are on Patriots Press Pass and you do subscribe, turn on your notifications so you know anytime we go live. Sometimes we'll go live right from the stadium, so it can be a quick turnaround, quick alert. So make sure you turn on those notifications so you know when we're going live or any other content is being posted there as well. Then you can also follow Barth, of course, on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his training camp coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for all of our Patriots training camp coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for jumping in with us today, and we will see you guys tomorrow after day 2.